dreadful, isn't it? This should be recording in progress. Anyway, so we calm. Our lives are anything but calm. If you come off the street here in Delhi, is it calm on Aurobindo Marg? Was it calm in the sense? I mean, we're so used to urban life, aren't we, some of us? The traffic whizzing past, the motorcyclists almost hitting us as they deliver goods or try and get home as fast as possible. Our own minds whirring away, with all the thoughts and the plans and the worries and the whatever expectations of the evening. There isn't much calm if you think about it. And in fact, we might even think that calm is something old-fashioned. Old people should be calm. Young people should be up and about and raving and, having a great time. So calm is not necessarily something we are very familiar with or even appreciate. I can speak of someone who was born not very long after the middle of the last century. So calm meant, okay, let's put it this way. You send a WhatsApp message, okay, or an email. If you don't get the reply to your WhatsApp message within, I don't know, depends on the person you've sent it to, obviously, let's say 10 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, how calm are you going to be? Or if you send an email, which you think is important, you don't get the reply that day, you're not going to feel calm. You're going to be a bit agitated, maybe annoyed or worried. In the so-called old days, you wrote a letter. And, letters, you put stamps on them, take them to the post office, and it takes a few days. We were quite lucky. 20 years ago, I remember, 25 years ago, you could send a letter to England, and it was pretty good service. It could get there in 3 or 4 days, and then the reply could also come back. So you could get a reply sometimes within 7, 8, 9 days. But it was just the way of life was slower. It was calmer. But there again, we're talking in terms of post-industrial revolution people, meaning post-end of the 18th century people. Life speeded up a lot with the Industrial Revolution. The machine, factories, speed, engines, coal, steam, all the rest of it. And then the incredible, I was going to say progress, but yeah, so-called progress in the last 100 years. If you look at what they were trying to do, the Wright brothers in the first decade of the 20th century with their strange little aeroplanes, which, you can see footage of it. And now you see what's happening, the speed. Anyway, calm is a roundabout way of saying we're not used to being slow and calm, and we need that to look inwards, because it's not just Buddhism. I think all authentic spirituality, another word I don't like too much, but all authentic inward looking or investigation of who we are, what we are, what's the purpose of life, that all requires becoming slower and calmer and looking inwards, not just looking outside all the time. Outside is where we naturally look because our eye faculty is so strong. Most people, the eye, the visual perception is so powerful, and that is what is, of course, played upon largely by advertising and so forth. So anyway, to be calm, then clear. Once you're calm, it's easier to be clear about things. If a pond or a body of water is agitated due to weather, storm, then you're not going to be able to see reflections clearly. You're not going to be able to see the bottom of that pond. You won't see the fish or the pebbles at the bottom of that pond. If it's calm, if the weather calms down, then the clarity also can come. You can see a bit more clearly. calm also refers to the storm of our emotions becoming a little bit less agitated, just like the weather, the storm, jealousy, fears, anger, attachment to things, a wanting mind. When that becomes more calm, then things become clearer. Otherwise, they're just colored by our anger, attachment, jealousy, pride, fear, anxiety, etc., etc. And then we aren't seeing things clearly. We're very much conditioned by those mental factors. So calm, clear. If it were only calm and clear, and here within clarity, we're also including, let's say, wisdom, seeing clearly. Okay, wisdom is so important in Buddhism, so important. In fact, without that, we cannot be free, we cannot be liberated, because what is said to keep us in chains, if you like, in samsara, in conditioned existence, is not understanding who we are. In fact, misunderstanding who we are, and thereby behaving in very ignorant, unskillful ways, which just perpetuate pain, frustration, disappointment. So the clarity implies also some wisdom there. But the third factor is very important, because if we only had calm, clarity, wisdom, according to the reasoning, and you have to work this out for yourself, you don't have to agree with me. The Buddha said, please don't agree with me. Check first. That's important. Check with your own intelligence. But if we only were to have clarity and calm, stroke insight, wisdom, then it's possible that we might use those wonderful qualities, but only for oneself. You see what I'm saying? Only for one's own happiness, one's own liberation, one's own freedom. In other words, it would just be a personal pursuit, and we would not really be considering other people. And the whole thrust of Northern, you could call Mahayana Buddhism, is that it's not enough to just liberate yourself. It's good, obviously, to liberate yourself from pain and disappointment and all forms of suffering is wonderful, but it's similar to somebody getting out of jail just for themselves, just escaping, one person escaping from jail. Whereas while that person was in jail, they had a community and people helped that person, and they had this whole interdependence. People depended on one another. Now, if we look at our own life, and this is very important, and of course, Buddhism speaks of previous lives, beginningless lives, but let's just look at one life to start with. If you can think of the number of people whom you've depended on, you wouldn't be able to count them. Mother, father, okay, people like that, that's easy to remember, whom we depended on so much, especially when we were children. And then, of course, friends, and but then, everything you can see around you in this room, all the technology we're using, all the clothes we're wearing, likely we didn't produce these things ourselves. Yeah. They all came from other people. Everything we see and use, even though we abuse them and say, oh, this isn't made properly, or the road has holes in it, but everything came about due to the effort of other people. Everything. Even your newspaper in the morning may be delivered by somebody, in the heat or the cold or whatever it is. So if you look at it that way, we depend on so many people, don't we? It's unbelievable. And if you look at mothers and fathers, I mean, reasonable, good mothers and fathers, the amount of energy they expend on their children is unbelievable. And then the worry, of course, later, and all of, and I'm not saying parents are perfect or have pure motivation, but the amount of time and energy and worry and care they expend on their children is something extraordinary for people who are not parents, like me. So the point is, It's all very well to liberate oneself, but what about the other people? They want to be happy just like us. They don't like suffering. Just as much as me, they deserve, if you like. If I deserve to be free, they deserve to be free. Why should they be different? You know, they suffer. They want happiness. They've helped me. They've helped me so much in this life, previous lives, you know, directly or indirectly. Extraordinary number of people just in this life, you know. So therefore it makes sense to not just think of me, you know, one person. I'm connected with other people. I depend on other people who are constantly kind to me, even though they're not meaning to be kind, but they are in the sense they help me survive every day. Just think about where we would be without other people and what they have done for us. So calm, clear, kind. And the kindness, of course, doesn't just extend towards other people. We have to be, if we are genuinely being calm and kind, then that is also a great gift to ourselves. We're being kind to ourselves by stopping this process of rushing around like headless chickens and just confusing ourselves and others and exhausting ourselves and making ourselves and other people unhappy through our constant tension and stress and speed, you know. So it's an act of kindness to stop, reflect, get in touch with our body and our breath. That's an act of kindness. And if we were to engage in that perhaps properly, then we would naturally be somebody who would be a source of comfort and not necessarily inspiration, but people would feel calm and comfortable in our presence. And that's something. That is really something wonderful. Because often with people in life, you feel either you don't like them or you're very attracted to them. And then that's a whole other game going on, which actually agitates the mind also. But how about, you know, and of course there's competitiveness with people at work or you know, whatever. But to meet someone you just feel comfortable with, that they don't want anything from you in that sense of grasping energy, and they're just there somehow like a very beautiful shade tree in the summer. Very beautiful tree. You can imagine a neem tree or a bodhi tree or a banyan tree, bargad, people, neem. In India, we have these wonderful trees. The shade they provide is extraordinary and also health giving. So if one can just be like that, stable, calm, clear, providing that kind of shelter for people, if you like. Of course, trees are amazing because they can give so many gifts to humans and animals and insects. So anyway, to feel that one could be like that the calm and clarity could lead to that environmental kindness, you could call it. Kind towards oneself, which naturally radiates outwards. And of course, if we can do it without wanting a reward or you know, people thanking us all the time, then that would be wonderful. But in the beginning, of course, we're beginners, so we can't expect to perfect these qualities. Anyway, I thought the Lama really was very wise in giving those three words, excuse me, calm, clear, kind. Because the text we've been looking at, and we might not get to it or do much of the text today, but it's working on compassion, which is the wish for others to be free of their suffering. Whereas kindness is defined in a simple way in Buddhism, or loving kindness often it's called, Maitri, Metta in Pali, Maitri in Sanskrit. It's defined as simply the wish for others to be happy. You wish others to be happy. And of course, you also, if you can do something for their happiness. Again, if possible, without, craving some kind of reward, something in exchange. So that kind of generosity of spirit, of heart, So kindness, this Maitri and Karuna, compassion, they are linked, obviously, but one is more focused on the suffering of others, wanting to free them from that. And Maitri, or loving kindness, is the wish, just the affection towards others and the wish for them to be happy. A good mother or father would have both towards their children, the wish for the child to be happy and the wish for the child to be free of suffering, if the child was suffering, obviously. So we can develop both those qualities, it is said, to a very, very high degree. The mind is capable of that, according to Lord Buddha and according to great practitioners up to the present day. They say one could even generate those qualities towards people who are harming us. That's also possible. And other religious texts speak of this. The Bible speaks of those kind of things. It's not unique to Buddhism. Perhaps Buddhism is rather wonderful because of the many techniques available to develop those qualities in the mind. Anyway, this was just a brief introduction, a way of introducing our practice to remind all of us, and especially for some people who are beginners here. So does that make sense? Yeah, calm, clear, kind. You feel the need for those qualities in your life? Or do you have enough of them already? It depends, I guess. And if you're naturally a calm and clear and kind person, of course, your perception of the world will be already that way inclined. But sometimes, very often, the environment we find ourselves in, the work environment, the place we live and travel, that can often not help us to be calm, clear, kind. It's kind of going against that. You're trying to get in or out of the metro at Rajiv Chowk. It's hard to sometimes be calm, clear, and kind at the same time. You're just trying to get in or get out, and these people on the platform, you think, why the hell can't they wait for me to get out? Don't they know there's 50 people trying to get out of the metro and there's 100 people trying to get in? Better they wait, but no, it's kind of so yeah, calm, clarity, kindness, little challenging to maintain sometimes, definitely. Yeah, but it's possible if we practice, like a soldier practices, right? Or a boxer, anyone practices before the fight, right? Otherwise you can't compete. So we practice in meditation and in our mind, and then we're more capable of engaging in it, I guess, when we meet those circumstances. And then one could actually become interested in the people on the metro or even at Rajiv Chowk and feel a little sorry for them being in such a hurry, being without calm, without clarity, without kindness, not noticing the 70-year-olds standing in the metro and just young people sitting in the allotted seats, not even noticing or pretending not to notice the senior citizens who would actually like a seat and don't want to kind of say, look, I'm over 60, please give me a seat. Perhaps it's the pride of over 60-year-olds also, don't want to admit. Abhi to main jawan hu and all that. Yeah. Okay. So calm, clear, kind. Very important. So let's experiment with that. Sit upright as much as you can. You have enough cushion? Sometimes we need to keep the back supported, you see. That's why you have the small cushions. To have your back raised a little bit, that gives it support. If you need more small cushions, there are there at the back. You can get more small cushions. Do you need another small cushion? Just take it from the pile over there or from there. Yeah, very close. Then you sit on those, obviously. You sit on them. They're not just to be at the back to support you like a wall. You sit on them so that the front of your body is lower than your buttocks. That's the point. Then your back is supported like a jirji there. Of course, we can't all sit in the full lotus like a jirji, but we can approximate. Yeah, that's good. Okay. Anyway, that's good. That's pretty good. Just feel supported. This is not a self-torture project. So then you keep the back upright, your shoulders level, head tilted slightly downwards, slightly. So the back of the neck slightly elongated. Arms a little bit away from the torso to allow air to circulate. And the hands can be either just on the knees, thighs, simply, or in the lap. Mouth gently closed or very slightly open, but not tightly shut. Eyes can be gently closed or very slightly open. Relax the muscles around the jaw muscles, around the eyes. Let there be a softness there, as though you were looking at one of your favorite landscapes, just a beautiful scene, or just some person who makes you feel very relaxed and happy. Anyone, grandmother, grandfather, whatever. You just feel calm and relaxed, like often you see babies' faces like that. They're just very calm, relaxed, and kind of chilled out. And notice that you are breathing. We've been doing this pretty much since we were born, even in the womb, I believe. Yeah, breathing. So just be aware of the sensation of the breathing, natural breathing, not any kind of pranayama, just natural. Just be aware of the sensation at the tip of your nostrils as you breathe in and out. If you can be aware of that. You may have to pay a little more attention than usual, but you'll be able to pick up the sensation of the breath entering and leaving your nostrils. Take a few deep breaths if you need to start with to get familiar with that process. So the back is upright, a sense of stability there, a sense of stability and dignity. The front of the body is naturally open in this posture, and that's very important. Psychologically, it means we are not trying to hide from anything. We feel open and relaxed, and that also makes us able to communicate with the world, with others. That's very important. We're not trying to hide from the world through our meditation practice, not at all. Long term, the plan is to be a benefit for others, not to hide from them. So just briefly remember, as part of what we call the motivation, remember how we all here online and here in this room, we're all having this opportunity to practice together, which is very wonderful. And just briefly remember the plight of most living beings who are rushing around, not calm, not clear, not feeling very kind most of the time, either to themselves or to others. And of course, some in terrible circumstances of war, migration, just poverty, malnutrition, starvation, suffering the effects of climate change, and so forth. And of course, just the overall general unhappiness that comes from people not being kind to one another, whether in family or whatever, between groups of people, between nations. So much suffering due to all of that. So think, by practicing, may I generate at least a calm, clear, kind mind, so that for myself at least, I can be a source of peace and harmony for others, as well as myself. That much I can do. I may not have the power to change things on a vast scale, but I do have the ability to affect myself and, yeah, some other people as well. Maybe quite a few people. Who knows? So just be aware of your breathing, as mentioned, and allow yourself to relax and have a sense of letting go, especially as you breathe out, a sense of relaxing as you breathe out. In fact, some teachers say don't put so much emphasis on the in-breath, but more a sense of the out-breath, because that's connected with letting go, not holding on. Holding on, wanting, grasping, these states of mind are connected with imbalance and pain in Buddhism, whereas open quality, relaxation and letting go, more connected with that which is harmonious and beneficial for us. So sit for a little while. Beginners should take a break after 3 or 4 minutes if necessary, and then start again, because we'll sit for 10 minutes. Just be aware of breath. And of course, thoughts will come, memories will come. So what we do there is just be aware of it, aware, recognize the thoughts, the conceptual states of mind that arise, images, memories, plans, etc. And just let it go. Don't follow them. Just try to just let go and bring the attention back to the breath. That's a simple instruction. It's not so easy to do sometimes, but just try to notice. In a relaxed way, let go without any irritation. Just let go and come back to the breath. And letting go with the out breath. In a very gentle, calm way, because the mind usually will be very busy, can be very busy. So just notice, let go, back to the breath. If you notice any tension in the body, just imagine it's leaving you with the out breath. Just observe that area and feel that the tension is flowing out with the out breath. Remember, be aware of around the eyes and jaw. Let there be a softness there, like we mentioned, the baby, or some images of the Buddha, very relaxed, almost a beginning of a smile there. Recognizing the thoughts, letting them go back to the breath. You can check, am I calm? Is there calm? Is there clarity, or is the awareness becoming a little sleepy, foggy? If so, take a few deep breaths and bring the clarity level up. Don't let yourself become pleasantly drowsy and half asleep. There should be a vivid, awake quality. Clarity includes attentiveness, being very attentive. And is there a sense of kindness? It's more subtle, but there's an overall feeling of a harmonious environment one is creating for oneself and therefore for others as well. you need a short break, please take that. If you need some hot water, there's hot water in the small thermos at the back. Well, welcome to everyone who's joined us recently. Ardunji, Mumbai, Elaine from Pune, and other kind people. Okay. Right. Are there any questions from what we did up to now, especially from people who are a bit new, from anyone? Of course, when the Lama said calm, clear, kind, he wanted to make it short in a kind of CCK, calm, clear, kind. He didn't mention attention. Often when we sit, we say, okay, keep the body still, and there should be relaxation and attentiveness, vigilance. That's another way of looking at it. But the calm, clear, kind seems quite covers a wide spectrum of what we're looking for. But doesn't explicitly say wisdom or attention. And paying attention is very important. Have you noticed how if you pay attention to something with your eyes or with your thoughts, that thing becomes more and more important and somehow center stage in one's life, even if it's just for a few minutes. But say things you keep on thinking about, or things you keep on looking at, or one keeps on looking at one's favorite movie actor or actress, or one's favorite poem, or one's favorite whatever, one's favorite painting, or have certain thoughts keep on coming, you keep on repeating certain thoughts. So what we pay attention to can become very predominant. And of course, if it's something unwholesome or troubling, it can really take over, can take over the mind. And one could become very obsessed with something or other, or a person or a thing, or some anxiety, fear, whatever. Have you noticed that? What we pay attention to. I mean, if we pay attention to a particular person, then we think more and more and more about that person, and then it's hard to get that person out of our mind. And of course, if we're thinking about Lord Buddha, then that might be, Buddhists might say that's a good thing, but even that might be carried to excess. If you have children and you're only thinking of Lord Buddha, then you have to remember to feed the children. So anyway, it's important we understand what we're paying attention to. And here, of course, in a place like this, we're inviting people, wherever you look, you can't help but see Buddhas and Pandits and stuff. So one's attention here is kind of caught by holy, what we call holy or sacred images, figures, beings who have generated great compassion, wisdom, and so forth. And so therefore it's considered very auspicious and beneficial to pay attention to things like this. The Maitreya Buddha behind me, Shakyamuni Buddha to my right, and so forth. So anyway, in this particular text, Shantideva is drawing our attention in many ways to the problems that arise from being concerned with ourselves and with our desires. And at a certain point, he is saying very clearly, and this is echoed by so many great beings in our tradition, he's saying very clearly that childish people work only for themselves in a spirit of self-centeredness, and it creates only trouble. And wise people work for the benefit of others, and that brings happiness. And he goes also as far as to say all the suffering in the world, all of the suffering in the universe, you might say, comes from cherishing me and what I want. And all of the happiness comes from cherishing others. Of course, we have to be wise about these things. It doesn't mean we only look after others and don't look after ourselves. That would be stupid. But it does mean this excessive preoccupation with me all the time and, my problem, what I want, what I don't want, this person is upsetting me, blah, blah. It's just always me. It's very painful, don't you think? And very a burden. So Shantideva is at great pains to show us how this is the case and how real freedom and happiness comes from caring for other people. I mean, we could experiment with that. When we get low, depressed, and upset, it's because we've been paying attention to a whole bunch of thoughts and thinking which is centered on me and my problem and what's wrong with me and my life and blah, blah, blah. It's not focused on the problems of other people. As soon as we focus on other people, there's a different flavor, even though it may be upsetting to focus on others in the sense they may be suffering a lot or having many problems, but somehow, because we are concerned for them, it's a different experience. It doesn't lead to that kind of suffering where we are just preoccupied with me, because it becomes very painful due to the fact that we're already habituated to obsessing about I, me, mine. This is the deepest cause of suffering, according to Buddhism. The grasping at me. And Buddhist wisdom is at pains to show how, in fact, this ego or this me that I'm clinging to is actually a fabrication. It doesn't exist the way we think it does. That's another long-term project, Buddhist wisdom, but it's very important. So who we think we are and what we are working for day in, day out, Buddhism is actually saying, well, it's just something we've created in our mind. It is not something existing from its own side. It is a projection of our own mind, of our ignorance. Ignorance is the main culprit in these traditions, wisdom traditions, including actually Hinduism speaks of avidya as the root, I think the root cause of suffering, according to the yogic tradition. Yoga, not in just physical yoga, but the yogic tradition. Ignorance is the root cause because that creates anger, attachment, all the other negative emotions come out of the basic holding on to oneself as very real and important. So anyway, I asked you a question, then I started talking too much. Is there anything you want to mention based on what we've said so far?
Kabirji, this has been very useful. The Goodman's Guide to Abhidharma Kosha. So there in page 34, there is this specific paragraph. I think people will find it useful. So it's talking about an introduction on discernment, prajna, and then
discernment.
specifically.
Could you speak slowly, especially for the beginners?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So so the idea that prajna is and discernment is really connected to concentration in terms of attention and concentration. So he sort of lists out three different aspects in terms of how to practice prajna. There is prajna in terms of how to listen. Yes. There's prajna in terms of how to listen. There is prajna in terms of how to reflect on what was heard. And there is
Sorry, your
prajna in
voice is
terms
not
of
very
meditation.
clear. Could you turn off your video and just talk?
Sure.
That might be clearer. You're
Yeah.
talking three kinds of discernment, are you?
Yes. Is this clearer, Kabirji? This one?
Yeah, could
now?
be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the three which he talks about is stuff which you discuss on and off quite regularly. There is prajna in terms of how to listen. There is prajna in terms how to reflect on what was heard. And there is prajna in terms of meditation, how to go deeply with what one has reflected on.
Right.
And he goes on to enumerate the explanation of the Profound Secret Sutra, the Samdhini Morchana Sutra, which is again very familiar from what you discuss in the sessions. Rely on the dharma that is being spoken and not the person speaking. Rely on the true sense and not the mere words. Rely on the definitive stable meaning and not the provisional contextual meaning. And rely on the primordial wisdom aspect and not the intellectual perceptual aspect.
Yeah,
so all
I'll
this
need to unpack that for the beginners, but yeah, it's good you mentioned it. Do you want to mention anything else?
Yeah, so all this cycles back to development of prajna in terms of discerning factors and how to listen and concentrate. That seems to be the first step in terms of
Yeah, so let me talk about that because it'll be good revision also for some of the older students and good to remind myself as well. So Naveenji has mentioned how the tradition speaks about the wisdom that arises through listening to teachings, just listening, which also includes watching things on YouTube or whatever. A certain amount of understanding or discernment or wisdom can arise from that, definitely. If it's, authentic material and so forth, then it can be very useful just to listen, just to hear, or just to begin to study something. It can be very useful. But then we can go deeper with the second part, which is the wisdom which arises through reflection or contemplating. What's the word you used, Naveenji, in the book? What's the second wisdom that arises through? Reflection, does he say?
Yes, in terms of how to reflect on what was heard.
Yeah, how to reflect on what was heard. So, it's one thing to hear something or watch something on YouTube or to listen to a teaching or something like this today. But it's another thing to then at home or wherever begin to think about it also a bit more, to reflect on it, to discuss it. Then one might get a deeper sense of what it is. Otherwise, it's just information, right? And already we have information overload in our society. So we need to reflect on it. It's not just some time pass, or something new, some kind of cliched wisdom that we keep on passing on to each other on WhatsApp or TikTok or something. But it's something that has to be reflected on to go deeper. And then the third wisdom or understanding, level of understanding, is the one that comes through actually then going deeper into it through placing our focus, our attention on it in meditation. And focusing on it, paying attention to it until it becomes a little bit more of an experience and not just a thought in the head, something that actually one teacher I used to have said that we should reflect until a special feeling arises. We should meditate rather until a special feeling arises, meaning we're going deeper than just the words, and that it means something. It's beginning to really mean something and affect us at a deeper than just conceptual or thinking level. For example, if we were reflecting on love and compassion, so it's one thing to know the theory and to hear the words, but actually to begin to feel that. And I don't just mean love towards somebody we already love. That's easy, maybe easier, but a kind of feeling of affection and kindness and warmth towards even people we don't know. And even towards people that at the moment we don't like. So that would be something that could only arise through meditation. But meditation based on reflection. An example, how would reflection help meditation? Say on helping you really feel some kindness towards someone who you don't like, for whatever reason, a politician or someone in your own life who hasn't been very nice to you. Well, that could only come about if one had begun to reflect on certain things like, for example, how that other person also wants happiness, don't want to suffer, just like me, and how they're behaving badly is probably a sign that they are not terribly happy in their life. They have issues. Otherwise, why would they behave badly? And if you don't like them, well, of course, you have to think that, well, it's not like the whole universe doesn't them. Some people probably like them very much. So it's just my connection, my perception of that person that makes me not like them. So this is just example of how you could analyze, reflect, so as to change one's perspective, from a very rigid one of not liking or thinking they are bad. I recently had a friend WhatsApp me saying that an old friend of the family from England, very old friends, we've known them 50 years, right? But it's like, she said, if you begin to defend Vladimir Putin in any way at all, then it's going to affect our friendship. Whoops. So I didn't, being Indian, we have a different relationship with Russia than England. It's totally different, based on different history and so forth. So, but it's very hard to get that across to people who have already labeled Putin as Mr. Evil, in the universe, the epitome of evil. The West is trying to rescue everybody else from. Anyway, the point is, by looking at something in a different way, we can change our view. So even Putin is someone who I'm sure in his life has been kind to somebody, an animal or another person, even if it might only be for a few minutes. So the point is, nobody is inherently bad, right to the core. These people are puppets at the moment of their, they are puppets dominated by disturbing emotions, which are temporary, by circumstances, by their conditioning, their upbringing, etc., etc., etc. So, and then if we reflect on that, meditate then on that, then that changes our whole view. And we could even develop a sense of wanting Putin to be happy. Not that we're exonerating him or saying it's good what he's doing. That's not the point. The point is, like a child, if you have a child and the child is misbehaving, you may disapprove of the behavior, but it doesn't destroy your love of the child. You still love your child. You want your child to be happy. So Buddhism is saying we can begin to feel that way towards everybody. So of course, that's not going to arise just through listening or watching a YouTube thing or reflecting briefly. It's going to come through really meditating, focusing, placing the awareness on that, and with a concentrated mind on what you've reflected on. Even the reflection alone isn't enough. It's like preparing everything, preparing all the atta vagara, making chapatis, and even perhaps turning on the the stove, putting the tava on the stove, but you haven't yet put the unbaked flour on the tava, on the hot plate. So you won't get rotis, you won't get the result you want. So we have to go through the whole process. Listening, reflecting, meditating. Then Navinji also mentioned 4 things which are very important always for us. They're called the 4 reliances, the 4 things to be relied upon. So important, and we often forget these, and it would be amazing if more people in the world remember this. It would lead to a lot more intelligence. The first one is saying, don't rely on the teacher, rely on the teaching, which means look at what's being taught. Don't get caught up with the teacher, whether you like them or not, what they look like, whether they are very smart or not very smart. You know, they may even pick their nose occasionally, and then you might say, well, that must be a terrible teacher. Or they may look so smart like some of our modern gurus, and oh, they must be good, therefore. Don't think like that. Look at the teaching. What are they teaching? And then with the teaching, don't just look at the words. Don't just be aware of the words. Go deeper. Be aware of the meaning. Rely on the meaning, not just on the words, on the meaning. So to rely on the meaning means already we have to use some intelligence to get at the meaning. There may be different meanings. And then the third reliance is about that. Don't rely on some kind of temporary provisional meaning, you know, contextual meaning, but on the actual meaning, the deeper meaning, the definitive meaning. What is the teaching really trying to say? What is the Buddha or the Pandit or whoever really trying to say? Get to the deeper meaning. Now, how will we get to the deeper meaning? If I use the state of mind that I use to watch Netflix or YouTube to get to the deeper meaning, it might not work. Because the mind that is watching Netflix or Amazon is basically seeking entertainment, right? Distraction, pleasure, actually. Even if it's violence, it doesn't have to be something romantic to get pleasure. We can just enjoy watching whatever it is, you know, including violence. So that state of mind is not going to yield the results. We need to, I think Navinji quoted the author as saying, we need to use a primordial mind, a deeper level. One teacher of mine called it wisdom mind, wisdom consciousness. Same thing, primordial mind, Yeshe in Tibetan. So primordial mind, wisdom mind, meaning that's what we need to aim at, getting a deeper, calmer, more stable, clear state of mind. That is then used to get at the deeper meaning. Because our normal, everyday, gross, distracted mind cannot do the job. It's like you know what you have to do. You have something you need to do, say cut a particular tree or something, or a surgeon knows exactly what they have to do, but all the instruments in the hospital are kind of rusted and haven't been looked after for years, so they can't perform the operation, don't have the instruments to do it, don't have the proper sharpened instruments, so can't do the job. So we need a very, very deep wisdom awareness to get to the deeper meaning of what is being taught. So those are the 4 reliances. And even the first one is very useful, isn't it? Don't rely on the teacher, rely on the teaching. We get caught up in personalities, cults. Even the Buddha says this. He says, don't rely on me, on what I say just because it's me saying it. He says, check very carefully. A lot of people appreciate Buddhism because of that. They're not just saying you've got to believe, you know. And that if you don't believe, you go to hell. It's not like that. You check, like a goldsmith checks gold. That's what the teachings say. So yeah, wisdom awareness, analyzing the deepest level of meaning. That is the way to get to the nichor, to the essence, to the ultimate truth, eventually to the ultimate truth of who we are and how things exist. And then that liberates us. Nothing else can liberate us. We can't liberate ourselves with loving kindness and compassion alone. We need to know the truth. Wisdom helps with the truth. Compassion also helps, but wisdom is the actual remedy to ignorance. Okay. So this is all revision for old students. Yeah. Elaine, you're sitting in my room. It's our friend from Pune where I stayed. She and her husband very kindly put me up. Yeah. Any insights from Geshe-la during the course, Elaine, that you just had in Pune? Anything that Geshe-la emphasized?
Geshe-la was wonderfully simple, and he addressed the awaken, to methods to awaken the mind, which was very beautifully put. He had very nice little examples which he gave. So
the course is on wisdom or compassion?
It was actually compassion, but the awakened mind as in Bodhichitta. So he didn't want to use the word Bodhichitta till the last day, really, when he went into the 9 methods, of cultivating Bodhichitta. But before that, he just, because there were a lot of beginners there, class especially are really freshers to the subject. So, and we have
Can you remember one of the teachings he gave to help?
There were a lot of questions, Kabirji, and there were simple little questions that came up. And of course, he had very simple examples when people said, how will we, feel kindness to everybody, and how can we feel loving compassion to everybody? It isn't, it isn't even natural. And he would say things like, well, do you ever forget to have breakfast every day? And do you need so much of, resolve, and you need to remind yourselves, and do you need to put in a whole lot of love to have breakfast every day to feed yourself? You never get tired of feeding yourself. So the main thing is to find out whether something is of benefit to you. When something is a source of benefit to you, you will happily want to do it. So one needs to, you were talking about people, so he said that only when a child sees that the mother is a source of benefit does that love grow. So you have to change your mind and wonder, what is it that, because see, everybody is not into, we must love all sentient beings, and they wonder why. But unless you're getting something from it, you're not going to start feeling a great deal of love and compassion for anybody. So he very nicely put it for beginners that if you're going to want to stop suffering, then you're going to have to look at the other person as a source of benefit. And that's when he went into neutral beings and difficult beings, how neutral beings or near and dear ones give you everything you want. But a person you don't know, you have to remember how much of kindness they show in, growing crops or protecting the country or giving you good roads and transport and planes and buses. So he did go down to a very nice level of starting from the ground of wanting to benefit yourself and then going on to benefiting others. And that, I think, helped a lot of the beginners who couldn't understand this thing of having to benefit everybody. For what?
Good. Thank you. Thank you, Elaine. So could you hear that clearly? Yeah. So the point is, at the moment, we think, if I don't look after myself, who will? We think benefit comes from just thinking about ourselves. But if we actually think in another way, we see how that is actually a cause of worry and distress and so forth. And how, if we can begin to open up towards others who also want the same as what we want, generally speaking, in terms of happiness, how that will lead to our own benefit. Even if we don't want to be benefited, we will benefit if we genuinely care for others and stop obsessing about me, I, me, mine all the time. We will naturally feel some kind of letting go that comes when we open up to other people. Because just caring about oneself is very claustrophobic. It's like being in chains. It's like, really tying oneself up with anxiety and worry, because we're always worried. Will I get what I want? Will I get rid of what I don't like? This person is upsetting me. I want to be with that person. It's always what I don't want, what I want, and it's exhausting. And if we were to spend some time looking at other people and what they need, then we have to check whether that would make us a little bit more spacious and free. The teachings say it would. Our experience, well, you have to check. You probably already have that experience. When you're focused on somebody else, even if it's just a small pigeon or animal, and you care for that, at that point, where is your worry? Where is your self-concern? Where is your obsessive me, I, me, mine? It's not there for a while. It's gone. To some extent, at least. So we can maintain that state of understanding could be helpful. Any questions here? Is it clear what we've been saying? Are you sure? Don't be shy.
So doesn't that make it slightly, by doing good for others for your own benefit, make that slightly anti the fact of just doing it for the goodness of it?
One step at a time, Faridunji. One step at a time. We can't jump to the perfection of giving, the perfection of love and all that. We start.
It sounds a little matlabi then.
आप मुंबई वाले बहुत आगे पहुंच गए, हम लोग दिल्ली में हैं. We go one step at a time.
What did he say?
He said it's like it's thinking of your own benefit. That's not good enough, he's saying. Basically, it's tainted. If you're doing something which you know will help you, even if it's what Dalai Lama, as you know, calls wise selfishness.
Yeah.
It's a bit selfish, but it's wise. Wiser than just taking care of yourself. Take care of others. It will help you. It's okay to think that way, that it'll help me and therefore it's good. After a while, it'll become natural. Like riding a bicycle, one falls off again and again, then you don't have to think about falling off or, whatever. It just happens naturally through practice.
Yes, Kabirji, that's what Geshe-la said. He said you have to be practical. If you only do it for others without thinking of yourself, you'll burn out. That's not going to last. That's why he said you don't get fed up of feeding yourself breakfast every day. So it should be your benefit. Be practical. We aren't at that stage of bodhisattvas. So we might as well just stick to, okay, does it benefit me? But you always are happier when you benefit others. So I suppose that's what he meant.
So it's also an action of kindness towards yourself, which is very important in the beginning. If we're not kind to ourselves, then it's difficult to extend it to others. Don't you think, Faridunji? So if you see it as an act of kindness initially towards oneself, it's good, benefiting me, then you feel happier, you feel better, you don't feel frustrated with the world, then you're more able to help others. When you don't feel, you have a chip on your shoulder against the world, if you don't have that, then you're more open to others, aren't you? So it's like if you're hungry and you just don't eat at all and you go out and start feeding the poor, after a while, you're just going to get exhausted and irritated because you're so hungry. So you have to feed yourself first before you can go out and feed other people.
I'm with you on that. I'm just saying that the benefit part, I mean, the middle part is, yes, you have to obviously look after yourself, be able to look after others. But if you're looking after others only because you want to benefit the punya from it, that part,
yeah. Okay. If you're
that's where I'm at. Yeah.
It's a subtle thing also. One has
it's like a fine line. Yeah.
Fine line.
Kabirji, then you'll do it every day when it benefits yourself. That act for others.
Right. For me, it's like having tea every morning, making delicious tea for myself. I feel I owe myself that act of kindness because the days can become very busy, exhausting. But morning cup of tea, that's when I take my time to, apart from the meditation and all, just the tea. That's an act of kindness. And to do it attentively, properly, is also good. Not to be in a rush, not just put, a tea bag and hot water quickly, not like that. yeah, grinding the kali mirch and the ilaichi, adding some, although not adding a lot of ginger now, because it's very warm now in Delhi, by the way, getting warmer very quickly. So anyway, yeah, kindness towards oneself, and then hopefully one is then practicing, if you like, to be kind towards others. It's a kind of practice, isn't it? Charity begins at home. Do we have an expression for that in India? Charity begins at home. It's a very common one in Britain, English-speaking nations. Kuch hai yahan? Charity begins at home. Ajir ji, kuch hai aisa? Nahin. Maybe we Indians are just more altruistic. Anyway, we don't need to begin charity at home. Actually, we do, of course. We Indians very much a lot of charity at home. Anyway.
I think it is the other way, maybe. कहते हैं कि घर की मुर्गी दाल बराबर.
Yes.
हाँ.
वो भी है.
वो है.
Ghar, yes. Yeah, there is a bit of that. Not, yeah, we have this, I don't know what it is. I don't want to mention too much about the past or colonization, but yeah, we do have the sense that if it comes from outside, it's good. If it's local, it may not be that good, you know.
Also, I think that in the household, people are more taken for granted, and what to the world I'm looking for is it's like entitled. So it's, you know, it's your duty to do it. It's not you're doing it out of volition, you know. Beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, let's look at a few verses of Shantideva. There's this, of course, we can't go through much, but he's speaking early on in chapter 8 about the defects. Excuse me?
Which verse is it?
Haven't got to a verse yet.
Okay.
Chapter meditation, I'm looking now at, well, he's talking about the faults of ordinary unenlightened society. Okay, thank you, thank you. Verse 10, verse 10, let's say. The last line of verse 9, I've got a slightly different translation from some of you, but verse 10 of chapter 8, he's talking about people. One moment they're friends, next moment they're enemies. On an occasion for being pleased, they can become angry. So ordinary people are difficult to please. Yeah, and he's bemoaning that fact. You don't have to put all the cushions away. Just leave them. It's less. Thank you. Yeah, book you can just put on a chair. Thank you. So, you also have to go? No, good. I thought you came together. No? Okay. Okay. So, when given good advice, verse 11, people become angry and they turn me away from good advice. If they're not listened to, they become angry. And through becoming angry, then they go to a miserable state of existence. From the point of view of Buddhism, if you have a lot of anger, then at death, you're not going to have a pleasant time, you know, and you're not going to have a happy future. So this is the state of ordinary people. Envy towards superiors, competitiveness towards arrogance towards inferiors. People get conceited due to praise. They get angry when reproached. What benefit is there from associating with foolish people, you say? Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
This is the story of every household.
Yeah, the story of every household. Yeah. Between one fool and another, something non-virtues is inevitable, such as glorification of oneself, speaking ill of others, and conversation about the pleasures of samsara, the cycle of existence. Yeah. And then in verse 18, wherever the mind, infatuated by pleasures, finds enjoyment, there a thousandfold suffering arises and falls to one's share. What does it say in your translation? Verse 18.
So you thoroughly confuse mind by the piling up of whatever object you are attached to. Misery a thousandfold will ensue.
Yeah.
It's almost.
Hence, the wise should not desire it. Fear arises from desire, yet it passes away by itself. So generate fortitude and look at it with indifference. In other words, look at desires and all with indifference. Many people have become wealthy. Many have become famous. But no one knows where they have gone with their wealth and their fame. Meaning, we do know where they've gone. It's changed. When they've died, where's their wealth and their fame then? What use is it to them? Even if we still talk about, I don't know, Genghis Khan, Napoleon, or whoever, what use is it to those people? They've gone. Their conquest, their wealth, it's gone for them. So he's talking about all of this. Verse 25, love due to self-interest is love for one's own sake. Just as distress at the loss of possessions is occasioned by the loss of pleasures. What is that? That is not clear in this translation. What's verse 25? What do you do?
It's quite different. When shall I come to dwell in forest?
No, verse 25.
Yeah, this is 25.
Oh, there may be slightly different verse naming. Okay.
I've got in woodlands haunt of stag and bird. Among the trees there are no dissension jars. It's there.
Two verses before that one. I think it's different.
Okay. 23. People scorn the poor who have no wealth. I've got the Shambhala one.
Anyway, I'm trying to. Let's look at the other.
It's the Padmakara translation, pardon?
I was looking at English translation. Let's look at
the Padmakara translation, but the Shambhala classic, the sort of maroon cover.
I'm going to look at the Padmakara. Quite different. He's added a few, but Wallace has added. Okay. He also has this verse, trees do not revile anyone, nor can they be pleased with effort. When might I dwell with those whose company is a delight? After dwelling in an empty temple, at the foot of a tree, or in caves, when shall I set forth, unconcerned and not looking back?
26.
Yeah, when shall I dwell in unclaimed and naturally spacious regions? Yeah, anyway, I'm not going to look at Wallace anymore. You have a different verse structure. Verse 26, when shall I depart to make my home in cave or empty shrine or under spreading tree, where with in my breast a free, unfettered heart, which never turns to cast a backward glance. So this is so tricky, isn't it? So wonderful to read, but again, who can actually venture into forests without worrying, about thieves, bandits, Naxalites, mosquitoes, lack of the local whatever, convenience store, etc. Internet, is there internet there, etc. But he's saying this is what we're going to have to do if we really want to engage in meditation. When might I abide in such a place that is unclaimed by anybody, ownerless, wide, unconfined, a place where I might stay at liberty without attachment? Hard to find these places, right? Maybe they're planning to build an 8-lane highway through that kind of place, so we can travel to Mumbai 2 or 3 hours faster than we can now. So it's very difficult to find such places. When might I be free of fear without the need to hide from anyone, with just a begging bowl and a few belongings, dressed in clothes that are coveted by nobody? So, yeah, these are very beautiful, wonderful poetic verses, but they're speaking to a generation, our generation, which is totally spoiled by modern living and by aping, well, the West and other ways of living. Urban living has become our way. And this is not to say it's totally bad, but it's certainly distracting, and it's not that conducive usually to calm, clarity, and insight and kindness. It's not really based on kindness. If you look at cities, just take Delhi. I mean, that's an extreme example, but Delhi survives by squeezing nourishment and water and everything else out of, I don't know how many miles around it. Cities are like cancers, which are growing and eating up natural spaces, making people more disturbed, more upset, more having to breathe bad air, etc., more sick, and more preoccupied, more competitive, more unhappy, basically. And that kind of culture where there is lack of decentralized, small village structures leads to more and more authoritarianism. It's just natural, leads to that. Gandhi knew this, many people knew that. But anyway, waiting for the day when Gandhi is banished from our banknotes. It's surprising he lasted so long. Don't know what he's doing on our banknotes. But yeah, they should put someone else there. Anyway, our whole structure of life on this planet is opposed to what Shantideva is saying. So we would have to make a special effort. And this is not to say we all have to go into a forest, into a cave. We can't manage it. It's okay. My teacher, Lama Yeshe, earlier teacher, said that, you can hole up in a 5-star hotel even, but be comfortable. Main thing is to be practical in the sense of not push yourself further than you can go at a certain point, and not try and torture yourself and pretend that you can be a great yogi when you can't. You can't just yet. You can't go into the wilderness and practice. We just can't do it. And most of us need to work anyway to survive. So only very, very rare people can do this. There are some, but very rare. Mainly, monastic types or people who are sponsored and who can do that. If you have a house, a family, children, it's well nigh impossible to do this. Maybe later in life when already the body doesn't, obey your commands. So anyway, this is the challenge Shantideva puts before us, that we need to find these kind of spaces. And then when we have found these spaces, then we meditate on compassion and wisdom. Once we're in those places, the mind becomes, it's much more conducive to positive thoughts, liberating thoughts, loving kindness and compassion. Sorry, we didn't have time for meditation today on these things. We've mainly gone through various verses. Any questions as a beginner? Are you getting some feeling for what this author is trying to say? He's trying to communicate? You can ask anything, I don't think it's too simple.
It was used to simple for me to forgive the people earlier, but right now it is very difficult. Maybe because I start working,
To forgive people.
Forgive whatever they are doing.
Oh.
It used, but right now it is quite difficult to let go or to think positive or to think good for them. outside.
The people at work mainly, or people at home?
People at work also, people at home also. It's like it's just if I am not harming them, then why they are doing
They're harming you, you think?
emotional?
Emotionally. Okay. Well, you have to calmly look at that situation and try and also figure out why they're doing that. What is making them behave in that way? Are they very protective of you? Are they very concerned for you? Are they trying to control what you do and so forth, with thinking that that's best for you? Or are they just upset or angry people who are then making things difficult? You have to work out what is making them tick, why are they behaving that way? And but you're saying it's harder to forgive them because you are working, you said?
Yeah.
Why does that make it more difficult to forgive them?
Because earlier I used to be at home or at a very safer places. I have a choice of sitting with the people or working with the people. I used to have a choice, but at work or nowadays we don't have a choice. We get to meet different mindsets of people having different mindsets. So I having a problem of adjusting myself with people who talk, who gossip or who talk nonsense about others or like this. So that I couldn't able to adjust myself with the outside world.
So the outside world now for you is more difficult than the home world, or?
Yeah. The outside world.
And they're affecting how you relate with your family?
Yeah, they're
making your mind a bit more intolerant or like negative, or what?
no. It's not at home, but at outside world, I see myself misfit for the outside world.
Yeah, you must be a little bit of a misfit. If you come to Tushita, you're a misfit. Very strange people come to Tushita. If we were not misfits, we wouldn't be here. We'd just be enjoying, doing what normal people are supposed to do, which is distract themselves morning to evening. Yeah. Well, there's no easy answer to your question, except that we train the mind, we work with our minds, because if we have a strong and happy mind, basically ourselves, happy in the sense calm and clear and confident, then we can cope with anything. It's like if you're fit physically, you can not get sick so easily, right? Other people may be getting sick, but you don't get sick because your body is strong and you're taking care of it. But if our mind is not strong and basically positive, even smallest things can disturb us, no? That's what I found. When I'm not watching my mind carefully or feel vulnerable or unhappy, then it's far easier to become more unhappy, to become annoyed with people, angry even, isn't it? So this is a clear indication that we need to work more with our own minds, which is what Buddha is saying. That if you can, as he puts it in this text, a very wonderful part of the one of the earlier chapters, Shantideva asks, where can you find enough leather to cover the whole earth? You can't find enough leather to cover the whole earth. But if you wear shoes, aapka kaam ho gaya. Your work is accomplished if you wear shoes. So the basic thing is, if we work with our own mind properly, then we don't need to we can't expect or try to change the whole world or how people are behaving. We can't do that, but we can change our attitude, I guess.
But other people think me or as a misfit, or they think that I am a bored person.
That you are a what?
Boring kind of a person.
Boring. Yeah, well, come to Tushita. We don't think you're boring. You can take refuge in Tushita. Come here. Well, yeah. Let them think what they think. You yourself, we say in Buddhism, you yourself, oneself is the best witness. Meaning, people may praise you a lot, but you know who you are, basically, unless we're really deceiving ourselves. We know who we are. And then if people are abusing us, saying you did this, you did that, you know who you are. So it doesn't matter what people say. People talk, as you say, nonsense, garbage. So you don't have to be affected by it. Although it's hard not to be affected, but we can think, look, I know who I am. I know my motivation. Let people say what they're saying. It actually gives more incentive to go more inward and study and leave at some point, if one can, the rat race. It is a rat race in that sense. Human beings are involved in a rat race, which is very sad because we're not rats, we're human beings. So if we behave like, and probably rats don't behave that badly. I mean, they're very intelligent apparently, but yeah, I guess when there are a lot of them together, they're kind of problematic.
Somebody has commented that in the rat race, even if you win the race, you will continue to be a rat.
That's very good. Yeah. So you want to be top rat or head rat. So all you people online who are corporate slaves, take note, and if you're not, rejoice. Well, if I don't know, are people muted? I don't think so. No. So any comments on that? Are people becoming more or less forgiving as you are more connected with society and jobs, and when you've left the reassuring womb of the home, a lot of you feel like misfits? I mean, why are you here on this Zoom session if you're not a misfit? What are you doing here? Tabashir ji, you haven't said anything.
Happily so.
Yeah, you.
No, I just nodding agreeably.
Agreeably.
Constantly, on the periphery of the so-called, the world that goes on every day. So yeah, there is always an awkwardness and an out of placeness for many years. So I know that feeling very well. It doesn't go away because it's very much the world that we live in.
Right.
Unless, of course, I go away and live very close to the Dharma and the Sangha, then that's different, of course. And that's the aim. But otherwise, yeah, I resonate with that thought very much.
In fact, as the great Krishnamurti says, if we are living in a rotten society, then to feel adjusted or well adjusted to that society is not a good thing.
That's insane. That's insane. Yes, absolutely. Quite right.
We should feel a misfit.
Yeah. And and that's what draws me to groups like this, just to connect, because it's rare that one can actually reflect one's true nature, true self with just the people, you're constantly working at creating a persona that you could that fits in, which is not true, but I mean, very well aware that you're doing this, of course, but it's difficult. It's not comfortable to always constantly have to think of something.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
So then one has to be happy being a misfit in some sense, but also balance that with generating kindness towards everybody. Because we might see ourselves as misfits because we actually are looking at things maybe differently, a little bit deeper. So we can feel more and more care and kindness for people who are just caught up in what we are calling right now the rat race, but in just ordinary perpetuating their distractions, their problems, and so forth, who don't have the motivation to benefit others. They're just living life for themselves. Then we can generate kindness and care, concern for them, no? you can feel compassion for them, not looking down on them, but saying, okay, it's like a doctor looking at sick patients in her waiting room. She would feel compassion, right? Even though some of them behaving very badly or screaming or having fits, then the doctor feels more and more compassion for them. So the mind could be trained to think that way towards people. People are sick. So therefore, I may not be able to cure them, but at least I shouldn't get angry with them because they're suffering. If they're giving you a hard time unreasonably, obviously their minds are a suffering mind. They can't be a happy people. So then you feel, bichara, how at least not get angry. And you might find some ways you could even make them happy. I don't know, take them out to a movie or to something, if that's what they like. If they think you're boring, take them to see RRR or something, Have you seen that?
Yeah.
I started seeing it. I can't see more than 45 minutes in one go. It's unbelievable. I'm only watching it because one teacher said it's interesting to watch from a Buddhist perspective. But I mean, goodness. Have you seen it, Sonalini?
No.
Oh, it's got violence, no? Yeah. It's quite violent, but it's somehow, it's like mythological. It's like a mythic film. Wow, they also, yeah. I think it's
How
very
did
well
you manage 45 minutes, Kabirji?
Haji?
How did you
What's
manage
that?
45 minutes?
45 minutes because I was watching with my auntie. You do things together, it's more fun, no? So I wouldn't have watched it on my own. But watching with auntie over dinner, keeping her company, is very nice. And we and both of us don't mind violence on the screen, Sex and drugs, tricky, but violence is okay. And that's terrible to say for a Buddhist, isn't it? Don't mind watching violence, but somehow it's a movie because it's so overdone. I don't like watching videos of, real violence, obviously, or watching real violence, but violence on the screen is James Bond kind of violence and all RRR violence, I don't mind. I have to admit. Yeah. Anyway, take them out. Do they drink? Your family, do they drink? That's boring then. They're boring. Do you drink? Kim? Why not? You think it's evil?
No. But yeah. My family doesn't drink. So
But you're out in the big wide world now.
I don't know. It's not, I don't do things if it does not come from within.
Good. It's better not to actually, to get into any habit of that. Yeah, it's not so useful. Yep. What else? Rituji, is this the Ritu we know from the hills? Or another Ritu? Oh, it just disappeared as soon as I mentioned her name. Okay. The evil eye. Oh, yeah. Anyway, good to see all of you. New people, old people. Ritu's back. Okay. Catherine, I think you've been online before. Samir, I think we know. Yeah. But if you don't show your faces, then I have no idea who you are, so.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm down with COVID and I just want to avoid any displeasure because of my appearance for all of you. That's why I'm not on the video.
Would be a pleasure. No, we're used to all sorts of things on screen. As I told you, watch RRR. I can watch anything. Ritu, acha, you're not the Ritu I know. Anyway, welcome, Ritu. Where are you? You have to unmute yourself.
I'm in Delhi.
Okay. Well, yeah. What to do?
And I have been to Tushita a couple of times.
Okay.
And
good.
I've attended a retreat conducted by you in Bir.
In Bir? Oh dear.
Is that
yeah.
right? Okay. Very cold.
I forget that. Yeah. Okay. Good. So and Samirji, yeah, I think we've You've been to Tushita, no? Or not?
Yes, many years ago, but
Many
not
years ago.
recently.
Okay, well, welcome back. Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
And Neil, I think we know Neil, but I'm not sure. Anyway, thank you all of you for taking time to join us. Just a couple of announcements I should have mentioned earlier while people are here. So tomorrow is Tibetan New Year. So a very big day in the Tibetan Buddhist calendar. Today is the new moon. Tomorrow is the first day of the first Tibetan month. And so actually we'll just be doing probably evening, main program in the evening. But anybody who wants to pop into Tushita during the day after 4:30, will probably be here. We can do some prayers or whatever. But then 6:30 we have regular session, but with some emphasis on the new year. Morning, might also do some practice in the morning. We'll send out an email, not an email, a posting. So tomorrow's a big day, but also Friday, we have a really excellent teacher, Venerable Tenzin Priyadarshi, who is director of the Dalai Lama Institute for Ethics, the Dalai Lama Center for Ethics at MIT in the States. He's a monk from Bihar with an amazing kind of life so far, leaving home at 10 to become a monk. And in his book, Running Towards Mystery, it's really kind of a spiritual adventure story about his life. Anyway, he's going to be speaking on Friday on the four immeasurables and also answering questions and maybe talking a little bit about his book, which came out a couple of years ago, 3 years ago maybe. So he's going to be talking on the four immeasurables, which are loving kindness, compassion, equanimity, and sympathetic joy. So he's an excellent speaker. And so that's on Friday. It'll of course be on Zoom as well, as far as I know. And those who can come to Tushita, most welcome to do that. So that's our program. And of course, tomorrow and Thursday. Yeah, Thursday, I guess we'll also have a session. But Friday is what I'm emphasizing. When Tenzin Priyadarshi will be with us. Yeah. That'll be 6.
Will His Holiness be conducting anything tomorrow for the Tibetan New Year?
Just check the website, dalailama.com.
Yeah, I'll get on later and check. That makes sense. Yeah. Thank you.
Checked it lately. They probably have something.
Yeah, he'll probably have a morning prayer or something. Yeah, hopefully a morning prayer would be nice to start the day.
Possible. Thanks. Neil, you have your hand up?
He doesn't have a face
I
yet.
can't see. Just see
Yes.
your yellow hand.
Yes. I was curious about the posting of the link from yesterday, the afternoon session.
Yeah, that was different link from our normal link. That was just specially for the yesterday's teaching. Yeah. Normal link is the one you have.
Could you please do the reposting again so that I can just watch the afternoon session which I missed?
Oh, that. I'll have to ask the person who's recorded it and who can send it to you. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. That may not be available for a day or two. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I will check with that person. Yeah. Thank you. Anyone else raise their hands? Naveenji.
4:30 Loser chantings. Can you please be online also, Kabirji, if you can, because it's too late for me. It's already 1 o'clock in the night. If people are dropping by at 4:30 tomorrow, can you also keep it on Zoom?
At 4:30, sure. Yeah. Oh yeah, you're in Australia. No, where are you?
Yeah, it's in Brisbane, 1:30. It's almost past 1 o'clock now. So it's getting too late.
Good Lord. Yeah, well, thank you for joining us so late, or so early. Yeah, okay. Yes.
Is it possible, yeah, Kabirji? If it's not too much of a trouble, please.
There's no trouble. There's no trouble at all. So you're 5.5 hours ahead, are you, or something?
5, yeah.
5.5. Yeah. Ajit says 5.5. He has a daughter in Australia, so he knows. Yeah. You're on the on the East Coast, right?
Down south, yeah. All the way down.
Okay. Take care. All right. I think we should stop there. And hope to see some people tomorrow. Ah. Huh?
No, I said Glenn, he's from Brisbane.
Glenn's from Brisbane. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so let's dedicate briefly. Let's dedicate. So this program, this session we had together almost 2 hours. If there's been any benefit, we mentioned calm, clear, kind. If there's been any calm or clarity or kindness or beginning of understanding of that and the need for that. And if there's been any benefit from Shantidev's words, then we dedicate that to the happiness and welfare of all of us, so that beings may experience not only temporal happiness, but more lasting happiness, and insight into why we suffer and how we may be free from that. So may we never be separated from authentic teachings. May our great teachers have long and healthy lives, especially His Holiness Dalai Lama, Kyabje Lama Zopa Rinpoche, and all the other great teachers. May their wishes for us and for other centers be fulfilled. May Tushita Center be more and more beneficial for others. May we never feel depressed or bogged down by the challenges of life, but not give up and recognize that we all have the Buddha nature, or you could say the potential to fully awaken, to fully become like Buddha ourselves. And may we transform problems into happiness, into the path, spiritual path, like manure used by a gardener. And then may people who associate with us in any way whatsoever, even if we think it's a negative way, may it benefit those people, just the association with us. In other words, may our lives become meaningful for others. And then dedicate for people who are sick, ill, or close to death, or who have just died. Remember people you know, dedicate for them. Should also dedicate for one of our online Sangha, Maya Joshi, who's been having awful health problems. May she recover from those, or at least be able to face them with, face the adversity with courage, equanimity. Also our landlady here, Prama Bandari, who's been quite sick, on oxygen a lot of the time, but also, again, a very brave person. And so may she have more and more calm and happiness in the mind. Okay, thank you all very much. See some of you again soon. Good evening.
Thank you, Kabirji. Good night. Good night. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you. Thank you, Kabir. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.